The jungle stretched endlessly, green and dense, with trees so tall their tops were hidden by mist. The air was warm and soft, carrying the scents of earth and leaves. Small animals moved quietly in the underbrush, and birds called softly to each other, their songs blending with the gentle rustle of leaves. The sunlight filtered slowly through the canopy, creating shifting patterns on the forest floor, on the moss-covered stones, and on the paths that led to the heart of Tikal. A river wound gently through the jungle, its water sparkling softly as it moved over stones, never rushing, always calm. Yak-chb, Zook often walked along these paths, watching the leaves sway, listening to the sounds of nature, and feeling the rhythm of life moving slowly around him. The people of Tikal moved quietly as well. Farmers worked carefully in their fields, planting maize and tending to crops. Artisans molded clay and carved stone, their hands steady and precise. Children played quietly, their laughter soft and fleeting, mixing with the distant calls of birds. Everything had a place. Everything had a rhythm. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was urgent. And so, the jungle continued to breathe slowly, a living, calm, and ancient world. With the city of Tikal resting gently in its midst, Yak-chb, Zook was a leader, but his rule was quiet and unassuming. He walked through courtyards and temples, greeting people calmly, listening carefully, and making decisions with patience. Every stone placed in the temples and structures of Tikal was set with care and thoughtfulness. Every ceremony was prepared slowly. Every plan unfolded in its own time. Leadership meant balance, not force. Time was circular, flowing gently, as it always had. He often sat alone in quiet courtyards, watching the clouds drift across the sky, hearing the wind move softly through the trees, and feeling the calm of the city around him. The people respected him, not out of fear, but because they understood his calm and steady presence. The mornings in Tikal were gentle. Sunlight touched the homes, the paths, the stone temples. Farmers moved carefully through the fields, planting, watering, tending to their crops. Artisans shaped clay into pots and carved stone into quiet beauty. Children laughed softly as they played, their small voices blending with the sounds of the jungle. People greeted one another calmly. There was order, but no rush. Everything had its time, and the rhythm of the day moved slowly. Like a soft, flowing river, the city was peaceful, and life unfolded at its own pace, without drama, without hurry. As the sun climbed higher, the city remained quiet. Shadows stretched slowly across courtyards. Workers paused for a gentle rest, sitting under trees, listening to the wind in the leaves, feeling the warmth of the sun on their skin. Yak-chb, Zook walked among them, not to supervise, but to feel the calm of life moving steadily, to ensure that everything had its natural rhythm. Birds circled overhead. The river reflected sunlight softly, and the city continued its peaceful, slow movement. As evening fell, the jungle cooled. The sounds of crickets and frogs filled the air, softly, rhythmically, blending with the gentle rustle of leaves. Firelight flickered in homes, casting a warm glow on stone walls. Above the city, the stars appeared, tiny, distant points of calm light. The moon rose slowly, illuminating paths and rooftops with a soft, silver glow. Yak-chb, Zook often looked upward, watching the stars move slowly, breathing gently, and feeling the calm of the night surrounding him. Days passed slowly. Months moved gently. Years unfolded quietly. The city remained calm, stone structures still standing, trees growing taller, leaves falling and new leaves growing. Children grew older, learned the rhythms of life, and played quietly, as their parents had before. Yak-chb, Zook eventually faded into history, his calm, Steady presence softly remembered. Time continued to move gently, and the city of Tikal rested quietly in the heart of the ancient jungle. And as this story comes to rest, your breathing slows. Your thoughts drift gently, like clouds passing in a quiet sky. There is nothing to remember. There is nothing you must do. The ancient city fades softly in your mind, and the jungle continues to breathe quietly. If your eyes are closing now, let them close completely. If you are still awake, you may continue listening gently, and your mind will follow the soft rhythm of this story, deeper and deeper. The night deepened over Tikal. The jungle grew quieter, as if holding its breath in gentle stillness. The stars twinkled softly, each one a tiny, calm light in the vast sky. The moon moved slowly across the heavens, casting a pale silver glow over the stone temples and the quiet homes below. Zook walked along the empty paths, listening to the soft whispers of the wind and the distant, gentle calls of nocturnal birds. Every sound was peaceful, every movement deliberate and slow. He paused near a small river that reflected the moonlight. The water shimmered quietly, moving without rush, and Zook watched its calm rhythm for many moments, feeling the stillness seep into his mind and body. In the homes around the city, families rested quietly. Children slept, their soft breathing mingling with the gentle night sounds. Farmers and artisans had finished their work, and the day's activities had faded into the calm darkness. Zook often reflected on the passage of time. He thought about the trees that had grown tall, about the stones that had been carefully placed in temples, and about the people who lived slowly, living each moment with care. Time seemed to stretch infinitely. Nothing was urgent. Nothing demanded attention. And in that quiet stillness, the world felt completely at peace. He sat on a stone step near the temple, breathing gently, allowing his mind to drift like a soft cloud. The air was cool, the night calm, and the jungle seemed to wrap around him in a gentle, protective embrace. As the hours passed, the city of Tikal rested completely. The river continued to flow quietly, the stars shifted slowly overhead, and Zook remained a steady, calm presence, an anchor in the serene, sleeping city. And as you listen now, you may feel the same calm settling within you. Each slow breath, each gentle exhale, draws you deeper into the relaxing rhythm of the night. The ancient city, the jungle, the moonlight, and the stars all move together in perfect, quiet harmony. Nothing disturbs the peace. Nothing interrupts the slow flow of time. You may feel your eyelids grow heavier, your breathing slower and more even, as the deep night continues to enfold you in calm, gentle stillness. And so, Zook's world remains peaceful, as do you, drifting further into sleep, safe, calm, and completely relaxed. The city of Tikal rested completely under the midnight sky. The jungle was hushed, and every leaf, every stone, every pathway seemed to pause in gentle stillness. The stars above twinkled softly, each one a distant, peaceful light. The moon's pale glow reflected on the temples and homes, casting long, gentle shadows that moved slowly with the night breeze. Zook walked quietly along the empty stone paths, his footsteps barely making a sound. He listened to the whispering winds, to the gentle rustle of leaves, to the soft, distant calls of night creatures. The river flowed silently, its surface shimmering under the moonlight, moving calmly, never rushing, never demanding attention. Inside the city, families slept quietly. Children's breathing was soft and rhythmic. Farmers, artisans, and elders rested peacefully. Their day's work concluded, their minds settled. Zook paused at a small clearing, where the trees parted slightly, allowing the moonlight to fall on the soft earth. He stood there for a long moment, breathing slowly, feeling the serenity of the jungle seep into every part of him. Time in Tikal seemed to stretch endlessly. Moments flowed one into another, without rush, without worry. The city, the jungle, the river, and the stars all moved together in perfect harmony. He sat on a stone bench, feeling the gentle night around him. The cool air, the soft rustling leaves, the distant flowing river, and the quiet of the jungle all created a rhythm that was slow, gentle, and soothing. As you listen now, you too can feel this calm settling within you. Each breath slower, each exhale gentler, carrying you further into deep, peaceful sleep. The world of Yak-Chb, Zook remains tranquil, and as you drift along this quiet night, you are cradled in the same calm, safe, relaxed, and completely at ease. The night slowly gave way to the earliest hints of dawn. The jungle remained calm, but a faint glow began to touch the tops of the tallest trees. The stars were still visible, but their light was softened by the coming sun. The moon had moved quietly across the sky, casting gentle silver shadows on the stone temples. Yak-Chb, Zook walked through the city, feeling the soft, cool air against his skin. Every sound was peaceful. The distant rustle of leaves, the gentle murmur of the river, the quiet calls of the waking birds. The city's residents were beginning to stir, but very slowly. No rush, no hurry. Farmers prepared their fields gently, and artisans gathered their tools softly, feeling the rhythm of the morning unfold naturally. Yak-Chb, Zook paused by a small clearing, watching the soft light touch the temple stones. He breathed slowly, absorbing the calm of the jungle and city. Time flowed gently around him, and he felt entirely at peace. The air carried the faint scent of earth and leaves. The river sparkled quietly under the emerging sunlight. Everything moved at a natural pace, without urgency, without demand. As you listen, you too can feel the slow unfolding of the morning, the gentle rhythm of life around you, and the soft pull toward deeper relaxation. Each breath draws you further into calm. Your thoughts drift slowly, and your body feels lighter, more relaxed, ready to surrender fully to sleep. The ancient city of Tikal rests quietly, as does your mind. The jungle breathes slowly, the river moves calmly, and the stars fade gently, leaving a world soft and peaceful. In this moment, you are cradled by the same calm that surrounded Yak-Chb, Zook, safe, relaxed, and at ease, ready to drift deeper into sleep. The dawn arrived so slowly that it almost felt as though time itself had decided to rest. There was no sudden change, no sharp light, no clear beginning. Only a gradual softening of the darkness, as if the night was gently loosening its hold on the world. The sky above Tikal shifted in barely noticeable shades. Deep indigo softened into muted blue. Blue faded into pale gray, and gray slowly welcomed the first hints of warm light. The jungle responded quietly. Leaves held still, heavy with dew. The air remained cool and calm, resting gently against the stone temples and the earth below. Nothing hurried to awaken. Yak-Chb, Zook stood at the edge of the city, his presence as steady as the stones beneath his feet. He did not mark the passing of time with urgency. He simply observed it, allowing it to move as it always had. Birds began to stir, not with excitement, but with patience. One call echoed softly, then another, each sound spaced apart, unhurried, respectful of the stillness. The city of Tikal remained mostly asleep. Homes were quiet. Paths were empty. Temples stood tall and silent, their surfaces cool and smooth in the early air. Yak-Chb, Zook breathed slowly. Each breath was deep, measured, calm. With every exhale, his body relaxed further. as though it were part of the earth itself. He walked along a familiar stone path, one he had walked countless times before. Each step was gentle, each movement deliberate. The stones beneath his feet were worn smooth by years of quiet passage. As he moved, the soft light of dawn revealed details once hidden by darkness. The texture of carved stone, the gentle curve of steps, the faint patterns etched into temple walls. Nothing demanded his attention. Nothing called for decision or action. This moment existed only to be experienced. In the fields beyond the city, the land waited. The soil rested, cool and dark, ready for another gentle day. The crops stood still, their leaves heavy with moisture, catching the first subtle glow of morning. The river flowed as it always had, unchanged by night or day. Its surface reflected the sky's shifting colors, stretching them into long, slow ripples. The water moved quietly, without effort. Zook paused near the riverbank. He watched the water for a long time, not counting moments, not measuring thoughts, simply observing movement without intention. Time felt wide and open here, as though minutes could stretch into hours without anyone noticing, as though the world itself had decided to slow its pace. The sky continued its gentle transformation. Light spread softly, touching treetops first, then drifting downward. The jungle responded with quiet acceptance. Somewhere within the city, a door opened slowly, not loudly, not suddenly, just enough to allow fresh air to move inside. A person stepped outside, moving carefully, respecting the calm. They did not speak. They did not rush. They simply existed within the unfolding morning. Zook continued walking, his presence blending seamlessly with the city around him. He was not separate from it. He was part of its rhythm, its breath, its steady calm. The temples stood as silent witnesses to time. They had seen countless mornings like this one. They would see countless more. Each stone held memory, but none of it pressed forward. The past rested quietly. The future waited patiently. The sounds of morning grew slightly richer, but never loud. Birdsong layered gently, one tone at a time. The wind whispered softly through leaves. Zook reached a quiet courtyard where sunlight pooled gently on the stone floor. The warmth was subtle, barely noticeable, but comforting. He sat down slowly, allowing the stillness to surround him completely. His posture was relaxed, his thoughts unhurried. In this moment, there was nothing to plan, nothing to resolve, nothing to achieve. The city breathed, the jungle breathed, the river breathed. And you, listening now, may feel that same gentle rhythm. Your breathing can slow, your shoulders can soften, your jaw can relax. There is no need to follow every word, no need to remember any detail. The story moves forward gently, carrying you with it. The light continued to grow, but the calm remained. Morning did not arrive with energy. It arrived with quiet assurance. People emerged slowly from their homes. Each movement was careful, each action unhurried. A farmer paused to look at the sky before beginning his work. An artisan stretched quietly, feeling the cool air. Children remained asleep, their dreams uninterrupted. Zook observed without judgment or expectation. He understood that life did not need to be guided forcefully. It knew how to unfold on its own. The sun finally revealed itself, not as a sudden blaze, but as a soft presence behind thin clouds. Its warmth was gentle, spreading evenly across the land. The city accepted it quietly. Shadows shifted slowly, barely perceptible. Stone warmed gradually. Dew began to lift from leaves. Time continued its slow, steady movement. Zook rose from the courtyard and walked again, his pace unchanged. He passed by familiar structures, each one holding quiet purpose. A temple stairway caught the light differently now, revealing subtle carvings. A wall reflected warmth where it had once been cool. He paused again, not because he needed to, but because there was no reason not to. The river caught more light now, its surface shimmering softly. The movement remained constant, unaffected by the day's arrival. Moments passed. They did not announce themselves. They simply moved through existence. The jungle grew slightly more awake. Insects hummed faintly. Birds shifted branches. Yet the calm persisted. Yaks ehb. Zook felt no separation between himself and the morning. He was not greeting the day. He was simply continuing within it. And as you listen, your awareness may begin to drift. Thoughts may slow. Images may blur gently at the edges. That is perfectly fine. The story does not require attention. It offers presence. The sun climbed just enough to illuminate the upper stones of the tallest temple. Light spilled downward gradually, touching each level in turn. The city glowed softly, never brightly. People moved into their daily rhythms, but those rhythms remained slow. Work was done with care, not urgency. Conversations were quiet, brief, gentle. Yaks ehb. Zook watched a group of artisans preparing their tools. No one hurried. No one spoke loudly. Each sound fit comfortably into the space around it. The morning continued to unfold without demand. And now, as this calm extends, you may notice your body growing heavier, more relaxed, more willing to rest. Your breathing may deepen naturally. You do not need to stay awake for this part. The story will continue whether you listen or not. The city of Tikal continues its quiet existence. The jungle remains steady and patient. The river flows without concern. Yaks ehb. Zook eventually returns to the stillness from which he came. Not disappearing. Not ending. Simply blending into time. And the morning settles into itself. Nothing dramatic happens. Nothing changes suddenly. Everything continues as it should. You are safe. You are calm. You are allowed to sleep. The world moves on gently, and you drift deeper, slower, softer. The day continued without announcing itself. There was no clear moment where morning ended and something else began. Time simply moved forward, softly, like water flowing around smooth stone. The sun remained gentle, never harsh. Its light rested calmly on the rooftops, on the paths, on the leaves of the jungle. Nothing sparkled. Nothing demanded attention. Yaks ehb. Zook moved through the city as he always did, with no destination that needed to be reached. His steps followed familiar paths, paths worn smooth by many years of quiet use. The air warmed slowly, evenly. Not enough to cause discomfort. Just enough to be noticed if one chose to notice it. The city responded without urgency. People adjusted their movements slightly. Shadows shifted just a little. Life adapted naturally, without thought. In one courtyard, sunlight rested longer than before. The stones there absorbed warmth patiently. They did not resist it. They did not react to it. They simply existed within it. Nearby, a tree stirred gently. Its leaves moved slowly, guided by a light breeze. The sound was soft, repetitive, and steady. The jungle beyond the city continued its quiet activity. Insects moved unseen. Small animals passed silently through the undergrowth. Everything remained balanced. Yaks ehb. Zook paused near a low wall and rested his hand against the stone. It felt warm now, different from the cool surface of the early morning. He kept his hand there for a long moment. Not thinking, not evaluating, just sensing. The passage of time did not trouble him. It did not concern him. Time was not something to manage or control. It was something to move within. The city of Tikal felt suspended in a gentle rhythm. Work happened, but without strain. Movement happened, but without noise. A group of people passed quietly, carrying baskets. Their footsteps were slow. Their expressions calm. They spoke softly, if at all. Chb. Zook watched them without judgment. He did not interrupt. He did not direct. He allowed the moment to remain complete on its own. The sun shifted again, barely noticeable. Light touched different surfaces now, revealing subtle textures, small imperfections. Natural wear shaped by time. The temples stood unchanged. They did not react to light or shadow. They held their presence with quiet certainty. Farther away, the river continued its steady movement. It neither slowed nor sped up. It did not respond to the time of day. It simply flowed. Chb. Zook returned to the riverbank, drawn not by thought, but by familiarity. He watched the surface of the water. Ripples formed, traveled, and disappeared. Each one complete in itself. None demanding to be followed. Moments passed. The world remained calm. The sun rose slightly higher, but still without intensity. The air remained comfortable, neither cool nor warm enough to matter. Somewhere within the city, a quiet task was completed. Elsewhere, another had just begun. None of it disrupted the balance. Chb. Zook stood still for a long time. Long enough that the idea of standing felt no different from walking. Long enough that movement seemed optional. The jungle held its quiet presence. Its sounds layered gently, never overlapping harshly. Nothing startled. Nothing interrupted. As you listen, you may notice your own awareness softening. You may no longer be tracking sentences or images clearly. That is perfectly fine. The story does not require attention. It does not ask for effort. It continues whether you follow it or not. The sun drifted again. Shadows shortened, then slowly shifted. Light redistributed itself across the city. Stone steps that had been shaded now held warmth. Walls that had glowed earlier now rested in softer light. Chb. Zook adjusted his path slightly, not because he needed to, but because it felt natural. He passed by a quiet gathering place where no one was gathered. The space remained open, waiting without expectation. Time passed. The city breathed. The jungle breathed. Nothing needed to happen next. The river reflected the sky, stretching its pale colors into gentle motion. The reflection shifted slowly, never forming a clear image, never holding still. Chb. Zook watched without focus. His mind remained open, empty, calm. The warmth of the day reached its most settled state. Not growing, not fading, just existing. People moved to shaded areas naturally. Work continued at a slower pace. Rest happened when needed. No bells rang. No calls announced transitions. Life adjusted itself quietly. The temples continued their silent watch. They had no schedule. They marked no hours. They existed outside of urgency. Chb. Zook walked once more through familiar paths. His footsteps blended with the sounds around him. Stone met foot. Foot met stone. The rhythm remained even. The jungle beyond the city shimmered slightly in the light. Leaves reflected warmth softly. Branches held steady. The river continued. Time continued. And as you listen, your breathing may slow further. Your body may feel heavier, more settled. There is no need to hold on to these words. They will pass on their own. The day leaned gently toward its later hours, though nothing announced the change. Light softened almost imperceptibly. Colors remained muted and calm. Yak-chb. Zook paused again, this time near a stone bench worn smooth by years of quiet use. He sat down slowly. The stone felt familiar. Neither warm nor cool enough to matter. He rested there without thought. The city continued around him. The jungle continued beyond. Time passed, quietly and steadily. Moments blended together. No beginning, no end. The river flowed. The light shifted. The air moved gently. And you remained safe, calm, and undisturbed. The story continues, unrushed, unchanging, steady as breath. Time continued to move, but so gently that it felt almost suspended. There was no clear signal that 1 hour had replaced another. Moments blended together, forming a long, uninterrupted stretch of calm. The light over Tikal shifted again, barely noticeable. Not brighter, not darker, just slightly different, as though the sky itself was breathing slowly. The air remained steady. It did not press against the skin. It simply rested there, soft and neutral. Yak-chb. Zook walked once more through the familiar paths of the city. His movements were unhurried, guided not by thought, but by habit and comfort. Stone beneath his feet felt smooth and solid. Each step followed the next without effort. Walking did not feel like an action. It felt like continuation. Around him, the city existed quietly. People moved when needed. They paused when they felt like pausing. No one seemed concerned with time. In a shaded corner, someone rested silently. In another, quiet work continued at an even pace. There was no difference between rest and work here. Both belonged naturally to the same flow. The temples held their presence calmly. Their surfaces caught light in soft gradients. They did not change. They did not respond. They simply remained. The jungle beyond the city stretched endlessly. Its sounds were layered but gentle. A distant call, a soft rustle, a movement too quiet to identify. Yak-chb. Zook paused near a wall warmed by the sun. He leaned against it lightly. The stone held warmth evenly, neither comforting nor distracting. He stayed there for a long moment. Or perhaps many moments. It did not matter. The river continued its steady movement. Its surface reflected the sky, though the reflection never settled. Each ripple formed and passed without importance. Time flowed here the same way the river did, without resistance, without awareness. The light shifted again. Shadows moved slightly, not enough to draw attention. The city accepted the change without response. Yak-chb. Zook continued walking. He passed by open spaces where nothing happened. These spaces felt complete without activity. A breeze moved through the city, soft and brief. Leaves responded gently. Cloth shifted slightly. Then everything returned to stillness. The warmth of the day neither increased nor faded. It settled into balance. People moved instinctively into shade when needed. They returned to light when they felt like it. No signal guided them. No rule required it. The rhythm of the city remained unbroken. Yak-chb. Zook reached a quiet intersection of paths. He paused, not choosing a direction immediately. Standing still felt no different from moving. Eventually, he continued forward. The choice felt natural, not deliberate. The stones ahead reflected light softly. Their surfaces showed signs of age, but not where that weakened them. Time had touched everything gently. The jungle beyond the city shifted slightly. Leaves adjusted. Branches rested. The river moved. The sky held its calm expression. As you listen now, you may notice your thoughts becoming less distinct. Images may blur. Sentences may feel distant. That is expected. That is allowed. The story does not require understanding. It does not ask for memory. It simply continues. Yak-chb. Zook returned again to the riverbank. He watched the water without focus. Ripples appeared and disappeared, each one complete. The light on the water changed subtly. No sharp reflections. No glare. Just movement. The city behind him remained quiet. Sounds were present, but soft. Nothing rose above the rest. Time passed. The sun shifted slightly lower, though the warmth remained even. The air felt unchanged. Somewhere in the city, someone finished a task. Elsewhere, someone began another. Neither moment mattered more than the other. Yak-chb. Zook turned away from the river and walked slowly back through the city. His pace remained constant, neither fast nor slow enough to notice. The temples watched silently. They did not mark the hour. Paths curved gently beneath his feet. The city felt familiar, predictable, calm. The jungle continued its endless presence. The day stretched onward, not toward an ending, but simply forward. Light softened slightly again. Not enough to announce anything. The city adjusted naturally. Shadows lengthened just a little. Stone cooled just a little. No one reacted. Yak-chb. Zook rested once more in a quiet space. He sat without intention. He remained without thought. Time moved around him. And as you listen, your breathing may slow further. Your body may settle deeper. You do not need to follow the story now. It will continue quietly without you. The river flows. The jungle breathes. The city exists. Moments stretch. Hours drift. Nothing ends. Nothing begins. Everything continues gently. Time did not announce itself as it continued. It did not arrive or leave. It simply flowed. Steady and unremarkable, like breath moving in and out without effort. The city of Tikal remained settled in its quiet balance. Nothing felt new. Nothing felt old. Everything simply existed. The light across the city held steady for a long while. Not bright enough to demand attention. Not dim enough to suggest change. It rested gently on stone, wood, and earth. Yak-chb. Zook walked slowly along a familiar path. His steps followed one another without intention. Walking felt less like movement and more like continuation. The stones beneath his feet were warm now, but only slightly. The warmth did not distract. It was simply there. The air felt still. Not heavy. Not thin. Just present. Around him. The city maintained its soft rhythm. A quiet sound here. A subtle movement there. Nothing overlapped sharply. Nothing stood out. In one shaded area, a person sat quietly, resting. In another, gentle work continued without urgency. Both moments felt equal. Neither required attention. The temples remained unchanged. Their surfaces reflected light softly, without glare. They stood without purpose beyond existence. The jungle beyond the city stretched endlessly, its presence steady and calm. Leaves shifted slightly as a breeze passed through, then settled again. Yak-chb. Zook paused near an open space between structures. The space was empty, yet it felt complete. He remained there for a long time. Or perhaps it only felt long. Time did not measure itself here. The river continued its gentle movement. The sound of water was soft and constant, never rising, never fading. Ripples formed and dissolved without pattern. Each moment replaced the last without interruption. The sky above remained calm. Clouds drifted slowly, barely changing shape. Their movement was subtle enough to be ignored. Yak-chb. Zook watched without focus. His thoughts did not attach to anything. They passed quietly, like distant echoes. The light shifted slightly again. Not enough to mark an hour. Just enough to notice if one was paying attention. The city adjusted naturally. People moved a little. Shadows shifted a little. Nothing required instruction. Time continued. As you listen now, you may notice that your awareness is softer. You may no longer be forming clear images. That is perfectly fine. The story does not need clarity. It does not need memory. It continues gently on its own. Yak-chb. Zook resumed walking. His path curved slowly through the city. Each turn felt familiar, expected, calm. Stone steps appeared ahead. He climbed them without effort. Each step matched his pace exactly. At the top, he paused. Not because there was something to observe, but because pausing felt natural. The city stretched quietly below. Paths, homes, temples, all resting in balance. The jungle framed the city like a steady presence. Its sounds were distant, blended, and soft. The river shimmered faintly in the distance. Its movement remained unchanged. Time passed, the light softened just a little. Stone surfaces reflected less warmth. Air moved slightly more freely. No one reacted. Yak-chb. Zook descended the steps slowly. Each movement felt unimportant, yet complete. He returned to ground level and continued walking. The city felt the same as it had moments before. Or hours before? The difference did not matter. The jungle beyond the walls remained endless. Leaves held steady. Branches rested. A bird called softly, then fell silent. The sound blended back into stillness. The river flowed. The sky held. The city breathed. Yak-chb. Zook rested again near a low wall. He leaned lightly against it, feeling its steady presence. The stone felt cooler now. Not enough to be noticeable, just different. He stayed there, unmoving. Time moved around him. As you continue listening, your breathing may slow even further. Your body may feel heavier, more settled. There is nothing you need to follow. The words are not instructions. They are movement. The light shifted once more. Barely. The city accepted it without response. People adjusted their positions naturally. Work slowed. Rest deepened. No signals marked the change. Yak-chb. Zook stepped away from the wall and continued walking. His pace did not change. Paths stretched ahead. Familiar and calm. The temples stood as they always had. Silent. Steady. The jungle continued its endless quiet presence. The river moved. Time flowed. And the story continues without pause, without ending, without urgency. You remain safe. You remain calm. The world moves gently around you. There was no sense of progression. Only continuation. The light softened again. Barely. Stone cooled slightly. Air shifted slightly. No one reacted. Yak-chb. Zook resumed walking, his steps steady and predictable. The city remained unchanged. Paths led where they always had. Open spaces remained open. The jungle continued endlessly. As you listen, your breathing may slow even more. Your body may feel heavier, more settled. You do not need to hold on to these words. They are not instructions. They are movement. The story flows without destination, without ending, without urgency. Time continues quietly, carrying everything with it. Time continued without effort. It did not feel pushed forward. It did not feel held back. It simply moved, calmly and without direction. The city of Tikal remained exactly as it was meant to be, not improving, not declining. Just existing within the gentle rhythm of the day. Light rested evenly across stone and earth. It did not sharpen edges. It did not fade details. Everything remained soft and neutral. Zook walked again through the city, his presence blending into the surroundings so completely that it felt as though the city itself was moving. His footsteps were quiet. Each one followed naturally from the last. There was no reason to count them. No reason to notice them. The air felt balanced. Neither cool nor warm enough to matter. It rested against skin without sensation. Around him, the city moved in subtle ways. Someone shifted their weight. Someone else paused briefly. No moment stood apart from the others. The temples held their steady silence. They did not reflect light strongly. They absorbed it gently, as they had done for countless hours before. The jungle beyond the city remained deep and layered. Its sounds were distant and blended together, forming a soft, continuous presence. Zook paused near a wide, open space. The ground there was smooth and worn. It felt complete without activity. He stood there for a long while. Time passed without being noticed. Minutes felt the same as hours. The sun shifted slightly. Shadows moved just enough to exist. No one reacted. The city accepted the change without comment. The river beyond the city continued its steady flow. The surface reflected light softly, never holding an image for long. Zook walked toward the river again. The path felt familiar under his feet. There was no sense of arrival. He stood near the water and watched it move. Ripples formed. Ripples faded. Nothing lingered. Time flowed in the same way. Always moving. Never urgent. The sky above remained calm. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without intention. The light softened slightly. Not enough to announce anything. The city behind him remained quiet. Sounds blended together evenly. Nothing rose above the rest. Zook turned back toward the city and walked slowly. His pace did not change. There was no reason for it to change. Paths curved gently beneath his feet. Each direction felt the same. As you listen now, your awareness may soften even further. You may no longer picture scenes clearly. That is exactly as it should be. The story does not ask for focus. It does not ask for memory. It continues gently on its own. The sun shifted again. Though no one marked the moment. Light redistributed itself across stone and earth. The city adjusted naturally. People moved slightly. Rest and work blended together. No signals marked the passing of time. The temples remained unchanged. They did not respond. They did not observe. They simply stood. The jungle beyond the walls held steady. Leaves rested. Branches remained still. A breeze passed through briefly, then faded without consequence. Zook paused once more near a shaded wall. The stone felt neither warm nor cool enough to matter. He rested there quietly. Time moved around him. The river flowed. The sky remained open. The city breathed. Moments stretched gently. There was no sense of progression. Only continuation. The light softened again, almost imperceptibly. Stone cooled slightly. Air shifted slightly. No one reacted. Zook resumed walking. His steps remained even and predictable. The city felt unchanged. Paths led where they always had. Open spaces remained open. The jungle continued endlessly. As you listen, your breathing may slow further. Your body may feel heavier. More settled into rest. There is no need to hold onto these words. They are not instructions. They are movement. The story flows forward without destination. Without conclusion. Without urgency. Time continues quietly, carrying everything with it, including you. Time continued quietly, without drawing attention to itself. Nothing signaled that another stretch of hours had begun. Moments simply followed moments, smooth and unbroken. The city of Tikal remained calm within the jungle. Stone paths rested beneath soft light. Open spaces felt complete, even when empty. Nothing asked to be filled. Zook moved through the city once again. His pace was steady, familiar, unchanged. Each step felt expected, as though it had already happened before. The air remained balanced. Not warm enough to distract. Not cool enough to notice. It rested gently against everything it touched. Around him, life continued in small, quiet motions. Someone adjusted their position. Someone else paused briefly. No movement felt important enough to follow. The temples stood exactly as they had for countless hours. They did not respond to light or shadow. They simply held their presence. Beyond the city, the jungle stretched endlessly. Leaves rested in layers. Sounds blended together softly, never rising suddenly. Zook paused near a familiar intersection of paths. Standing still felt natural. Moving felt just as natural. He remained there for a while. Time passed without measurement. The difference between minutes and hours faded away. The light shifted slightly. Not brighter, not darker, just different enough to exist. The city adjusted without reaction. People moved instinctively. No one hurried. No one waited. The river beyond the city continued its steady flow. Its surface reflected the sky in gentle patterns. Ripples formed and disappeared without meaning. Zook walked toward the river again. The path beneath his feet felt smooth and familiar. There was no sense of arrival when he reached the water. He stood quietly and watched the movement. The water never stopped. It never rushed. Time moved the same way. The sky remained calm above him. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without intention. Light rested evenly across the land. The city behind him remained quiet. Sounds existed, but none demanded attention. Everything fit comfortably together. Zook turned and walked back through the city. His pace did not change. There was no reason for it to change. Paths curved gently. Open spaces remained open. Nothing felt different from before. As you listen now, your thoughts may feel slower. Your awareness may soften. That is fine. The story does not require effort. It continues gently on its own. The light shifted again, barely noticeable. Stone surfaces reflected it softly. Air moved just enough to exist. The city accepted the change without comment. Someone rested in the shade. Someone continued a quiet task. Both moments felt equal. The temples remained silent. The jungle remained steady. The river continued. Zook paused once more near a low stone wall. He rested there lightly. The stone felt neutral, neither warm nor cool enough to matter. Time moved around him. Moments blended together. Nothing began. Nothing ended. As you continue listening, your breathing may slow further. Your body may feel heavier, more settled. There is no need to follow every word. The story flows forward without destination, without urgency, without conclusion. Time continues quietly, and everything moves with it. Time continued to pass in a way that did not ask to be noticed. It moved softly, without marking itself. Nothing announced the change from one moment to the next. The city of Tikal remained calm and settled. Stone structures held their quiet shapes. Paths stayed exactly where they had always been. Nothing shifted enough to matter. Zook walked slowly beneath the open sky. His steps were even and unhurried. There was no destination pulling him forward. The air rested comfortably around him. It carried no strong scent. It carried no sharp feeling. It simply existed. Nearby, the city continued in small, gentle motions. Someone leaned briefly against a wall. Someone else crossed an open space and disappeared again. No movement stood out. The temples remained still. Their surfaces caught the light softly. Shadows rested against them without contrast. Beyond the city, the jungle stretched quietly. Layers of green blended together. Sounds remained distant and low. Zook paused near a familiar stone platform. Standing felt the same as walking. Time did not change around him. He remained there for a while. Minutes passed without shape. Hours followed just as smoothly. The light shifted slightly across the ground. Not enough to signal morning or evening. Just enough to continue. The city accepted the shift naturally. Nothing reacted. Nothing needed to. The river beyond the paths continued its steady movement. Water slid past itself without resistance. Reflections formed and faded quietly. Zook walked toward the sound of water. The path felt smooth beneath his feet. Each step followed the last without thought. When he reached the river, he stood still. The water moved. He did not. Time flowed in both directions at once, yet felt exactly the same. The sky remained open and calm. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without purpose. Light rested evenly across everything. Behind him, the city stayed quiet. Sounds blended into one gentle presence. Nothing rose above the rest. Zook turned and walked back again. There was no sense of returning. There was no sense of leaving. Paths curved gently. Open spaces remained unchanged. Everything felt familiar. As you continue listening, your thoughts may drift more freely. You may no longer picture details clearly. That is fine. The story does not need attention. It carries itself forward. The light softened again. Stone surfaces adjusted slightly. Air shifted and settled. Someone nearby paused. Someone else continued moving. Both moments felt the same. The temples remained silent. The jungle remained steady. The river continued without pause. Zook rested briefly near a shaded wall. The stone felt neutral and steady. There was no reason to move quickly. Time continued to pass around him. Moments blended together seamlessly. Nothing began. Nothing ended. As you listen, your breathing may slow. Your body may feel heavier, calmer. There is no need to hold on to these words. The story moves gently forward, without direction, without conclusion. Time continues quietly, and everything remains at ease. Time continued without effort. It did not feel measured. It did not feel counted. It simply existed, moving forward gently. The city of Tikal remained settled within the jungle. Stone surfaces rested in soft light. Paths curved naturally through open spaces. Nothing felt incomplete. Zook walked again through familiar places. His steps were steady and predictable. There was no reason to hurry. The air felt calm and balanced. It carried no strong temperature. It touched everything equally. Around him, quiet activity continued. Someone adjusted their position. Someone else paused briefly. No movement drew attention. The temples stood without change. Their shapes remained constant. Light and shadow rested against them evenly. Beyond the city, the jungle remained layered and still. Leaves held their places. Distant sounds blended together softly. Zook paused near an open courtyard. The ground beneath his feet felt smooth and worn. Standing felt natural. Time passed without shape. Minutes dissolved into one another. Hours followed gently behind. The light shifted slightly across the stone. Not brighter, not darker, just quietly different. The city accepted the shift without response. Nothing required adjustment. The river continued its steady movement beyond the paths. Water flowed without interruption. Reflections formed and faded softly. Zook walked toward the river once more. The path felt familiar beneath him. There was no sense of arrival when he reached the water. He stood quietly and watched the flow. The water never paused. It never hurried. Time moved in the same way. The sky remained open and calm above. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without intention. Light rested evenly across the land. Behind him, the city remained quiet. Sounds existed only as a soft background. Nothing rose above the rest. Zook turned and walked back through the city. His pace remained unchanged. Each step followed the last naturally. Paths curved gently. Open spaces remained open. Everything felt steady. As you listen now, your awareness may soften further. Your thoughts may feel slower. That is exactly as it should be. The story does not ask you to follow it. It continues on its own. The light shifted again, barely noticeable. Stone cooled slightly. Air moved and settled. Someone nearby rested in the shade. Someone else moved quietly along a path. Both moments blended together. The temples remained silent. The jungle remained steady. The river continued without pause. Zook paused near a low stone wall. He rested there briefly. The stone felt neutral and calm. Time moved around him. Moments blended together smoothly. Nothing began. Nothing ended. As you continue listening, your breathing may slow. Your body may feel heavier, more relaxed. There is no need to remember these words. The story flows forward gently, without direction, without conclusion. Time continues quietly. And everything remains at rest. Time continued in a way that did not need attention. It moved without signals. Nothing marked its passing. The city of Tikal remained calm and unchanged. Stone surfaces held their quiet presence. Paths rested exactly where they had always been. Nothing asked to be different. Zook moved slowly through the familiar spaces. His steps were even and unhurried. There was no destination guiding him. The air felt steady and neutral. It carried no sharp scent. It carried no strong feeling. It simply surrounded everything evenly. Around him, small movements continued quietly. Someone shifted their weight. Someone else paused and then moved on. No action felt important. The temples stood in steady silence. Their edges softened by time. Light rested against them without contrast. Beyond the city, the jungle remained layered and calm. Leaves stayed still. Distant sounds blended into one gentle presence. Zook paused near a wide, open space. The ground beneath him felt smooth and familiar. Standing felt complete. Time passed without form. Minutes flowed into hours. Hours felt the same as moments. The light changed slightly. Not enough to notice. Just enough to continue. The city accepted the change naturally. No one reacted. Nothing needed to. The river beyond the paths continued its steady movement. Water slid past itself without resistance. Reflections appeared and disappeared softly. Zook walked toward the river once again. The path felt familiar beneath his feet. There was no sense of arrival when he reached the water. He stood quietly and watched the flow. The water moved continuously. It never paused. Time moved the same way. The sky above remained open and calm. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without purpose. Light rested evenly across the land. Behind him, the city stayed quiet. Sounds blended together softly. Nothing rose above the rest. Yaxehb, Zook turned and walked back through the city. His pace did not change. Each step followed the last naturally. Paths curved gently. Open spaces remained unchanged. Everything felt steady. As you continue listening, your thoughts may feel distant. Your awareness may soften further. That is fine. The story does not require attention. It moves forward on its own. The light shifted again, barely noticeable. Stone surfaces cooled slightly. Air moved and settled. Someone nearby rested quietly. Someone else continued a gentle task. Both moments blended together. The temples remained silent. The jungle remained steady. The river continued without pause. Yaxehb, Zook paused near a shaded wall. He rested there briefly. The stone felt neutral and calm. Time moved around him. Moments blended together seamlessly. Nothing began. Nothing ended. As you listen now, your breathing may slow further. Your body may feel heavier, more relaxed. There is no need to remember these words. The story flows gently onward. Without direction, without conclusion. Time continues quietly, and everything remains at ease. Time continued to exist without shape or boundary. It did not announce itself. It did not pause. It simply moved, gently and evenly. The city of Tikal remained settled in its quiet rhythm. Stone structures rested where they always had. Paths felt familiar and unchanged. Nothing asked for attention. Yaxehb, Zook walked slowly through the open spaces. His steps were steady and unremarkable. There was no urgency guiding him. The air felt calm and balanced. It carried no strong warmth. It carried no coolness worth noticing. It surrounded everything equally. Around him, the city continued in soft motions. Someone adjusted their posture. Someone else stood still for a while. No moment stood apart. The temples remained silent and steady. Their surfaces softened by time. Light rested against them gently. Beyond the city, the jungle stretched endlessly. Layers of leaves remained still. Distant sounds blended into one continuous presence. Yaxehb, Zook paused near a familiar courtyard. The ground beneath him felt smooth and worn. Standing felt complete. Time passed quietly. Minutes flowed into hours. Hours felt the same as moments. The light shifted slightly across the stone. Not brighter, not darker, just softly different. The city accepted the shift without response. Nothing needed to change. Time moved forward without any effort at all. There was no signal that it was moving. No sound marked its progress. It simply continued, smooth and quiet, like a long breath that never needed to end. The city of Tikal remained settled in its familiar stillness. Stone structures stood exactly where they had always stood. Paths curved gently through open spaces, worn smooth by countless slow steps. Nothing felt new, and nothing felt old enough to matter. Yaxehb, Zook walked through the city once more. His steps were steady and unhurried. There was no destination guiding him. Walking felt the same as standing. Standing felt the same as waiting. The air rested evenly against everything. It carried no sharp temperature. It did not press or pull. It simply existed, filling the space between stone, skin, and sky. Around him, small movements continued quietly. Someone shifted their weight near a wall. Someone else crossed an open space and disappeared behind a structure. No motion lingered long enough to be remembered. The temples remained silent. Their surfaces softened by time and light. Shadows rested against them gently, without contrast or drama. Beyond the city, The jungle stretched endlessly. Layers of leaves rested in place. Distant sounds blended together into a single low presence that never changed. Yak's EHB, Zook paused near a familiar intersection of paths. Standing still felt complete. There was no sense of stopping, because nothing had been moving toward anything. Time passed without shape. Moments did not stack or separate. They flowed into one another quietly. The light shifted slightly across the ground. Not brighter, not darker, just different enough to continue. The city accepted the change without reaction. Nothing adjusted. Nothing needed to. The river beyond the paths continued its steady movement. Water flowed smoothly, sliding past itself without resistance. Reflections formed, stretched, and faded without holding shape. Yak's EHB, Zook walked toward the sound of water. The path beneath his feet felt familiar and even. There was no sense of arrival when he reached the riverbank. He stood quietly and watched the water move. The river did not hurry. It did not pause. It moved the way time moved. The sky above remained open and calm. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without intention. Light rested evenly across stone, water, and earth. Behind him, the city remained quiet. Sounds existed only as a gentle background. Nothing rose above the rest. After a while, Yak's EHB, Zook turned and walked back. There was no sense of returning. There was no sense of leaving. Paths curved gently beneath his feet. Open spaces remained unchanged. Everything felt exactly as it had before. As you listen now, your thoughts may begin to slow. They may drift without direction. There is no need to follow them. The story does not ask for attention. It continues calmly, whether it is noticed or not. The light shifted again, almost imperceptibly. Stone surfaces cooled slightly. Air moved and settled back into stillness. Someone nearby rested in the shade. Someone else continued a quiet task without urgency. Both moments felt the same. The temples remained silent. The jungle remained steady. The river continued without pause. Yak's EHB, Zook paused near a low stone wall. He rested there lightly. The stone felt neutral beneath his hand. Time moved around him, not forward, not backward. Just onward. Moments blended together without edges. There was no beginning. There was no ending. Breathing slowed naturally. The body felt heavier. Muscles rested without instruction. There was no need to remember these words. They were not meant to be held. They were meant to pass, like everything else. The city remained calm. The paths remained quiet. The sky remained open. Time continued quietly, and everything moved with it, without effort, without conclusion. Time continued quietly, without drawing attention to itself. There was no clear moment where 1 hour became another. Everything moved forward in a soft, even flow, like a slow breath that never needed to be finished. The city of Tikal remained settled in its familiar stillness. Stone structures stood calmly beneath the open sky. Paths curved gently through open spaces, worn smooth by time and countless quiet steps. Nothing asked to be changed. Yak's EHB, Zook walked slowly through the city once again. His steps were steady and unremarkable. There was no destination guiding him forward. Walking felt the same as standing. Standing felt the same as resting. The air rested evenly against his skin. It carried no sharp warmth. It carried no coolness worth noticing. It simply existed, filling the space between stone, earth, and sky. Around him, the city continued in small, quiet movements. Someone paused briefly near a wall. Someone else crossed an open space without hurry. No movement lingered long enough to matter. The temples remained silent. their surfaces softened by time and light. Shadows rested against them gently, without contrast or drama. Beyond the city, the jungle stretched endlessly. Layers of leaves rested one upon another. Distant sounds blended together into a single low presence that never changed. Zook paused near a wide courtyard. The ground beneath his feet felt smooth and familiar. Standing still felt complete. Time passed without shape. Moments flowed into one another. Minutes felt the same as hours. The light shifted slightly across the stone. Not brighter, not darker, just different enough to continue. The city accepted the shift without response. Nothing adjusted. Nothing needed to. The river beyond the paths continued its steady movement. Water slid past itself without resistance. Reflections formed, stretched, and faded quietly. Zook walked toward the sound of water. The path beneath his feet felt even and familiar. There was no sense of arrival when he reached the riverbank. He stood quietly and watched the flow. The water did not hurry. It did not pause. It moved the same way time moved. The sky above remained open and calm. Clouds drifted slowly, changing shape without intention. Light rested evenly across stone, water, and earth. Behind him, the city remained quiet. Sounds existed only as a gentle background. Nothing rose above the rest. After a while, Zook turned and walked back through the city. There was no sense of leaving. There was no sense of returning. Paths curved gently beneath his feet. Open spaces remained unchanged. Everything felt exactly as it had before. As you continue listening, your thoughts may soften. They may drift without direction. There is no need to follow them. The story does not ask for attention. It continues calmly, whether it is noticed or not. The light shifted again. Almost imperceptibly. Stone surfaces cooled slightly. Air moved, then settled back into stillness. Someone nearby rested in the shade. Someone else continued a quiet task without urgency. Both moments blended together. The temples remained silent. The jungle remained steady. The river continued without pause. Zook paused near a low stone wall. He rested there lightly. The stone felt neutral beneath his hand. Time moved around him. Not forward, not backward, just onward. Moments blended together without edges. There was no beginning. There was no ending. Breathing slowed naturally. The body felt heavier. Muscles rested without instruction. The city remained calm. The paths remained quiet. The sky remained open. Time continued quietly. And everything moved with it, without effort, without conclusion. The hours did not announce themselves. They arrived quietly, as if they had always been there. Time did not move forward so much as it settled deeper. The city of Tikal felt slightly different now. Not changed. Just quieter in a softer way. Stone held the last warmth of the day without releasing it. Zook was no longer walking with intention. He moved because moving felt natural. Stopping would have felt the same. The air rested lower than before. It felt heavier, slower, as if it had learned how to remain still. Breathing required no effort. Somewhere far away, the jungle released a low, distant sound. It did not repeat. It did not continue. It simply existed once, then faded. The paths beneath his feet felt smoother now. Not because they had changed, but because attention no longer lingered on them. He passed a place he had passed many times before. It felt familiar without being remembered. Recognition no longer mattered. The temples stood darker now, their shapes softened by the absence of sharp light. Edges dissolved into shadow. Nothing demanded to be seen clearly. Time stretched itself thin. Moments widened. The space between thoughts grew longer. Yak-chb. Zook paused without deciding to pause. Stillness arrived first. Awareness followed later. The air moved slightly, then stopped again. As if it had decided there was nowhere else to go. Far beyond the city, the river continued. Its movement felt slower now, not because it was, but because there was no need to notice its speed. Water flowed. Time flowed. Neither asked for attention. The sky above the city held its quiet darkness. Clouds drifted without shape or purpose. Stars did not insist on being counted. Yak-chb. Zook rested near a stone surface. The stone felt steady. It did not hold warmth or cold. It simply existed beneath his hand. Minutes passed unnoticed. Hours followed without distinction. Nothing separated one from the other. The city around him seemed to breathe more slowly. Sounds softened. Spaces widened. Someone far away shifted slightly. Someone else remained still. Both moments felt identical. The night did not deepen. It simply remained. Thoughts, if they appeared, moved gently. They did not connect. They did not stay. Breathing found its own rhythm. Slower. Deeper. Unconcerned with time. The jungle held its position beyond the city. Leaves rested. Branches did not move. Yak-chb. Zook did not leave. He did not stay. He existed within the moment as it passed through him. Time no longer felt like movement. It felt like a surface. Smooth. Unbroken. There was no beginning to notice. There was no ending to wait for. Only the quiet continuation of everything remaining exactly as it was. Time did not announce itself. It simply existed, stretching like a long, slow breath that refused to end. Nothing moved quickly. Nothing demanded attention. The city of Tikal lay quiet beneath the soft weight of the night. Stone surfaces felt older, heavier, resting without expectation. Paths stretched gently, following shapes that had existed for centuries. No step seemed urgent. Yak-chb. Zook walked slowly, almost without purpose. Each footfall was absorbed by the ground, leaving no trace. Stopping and continuing felt the same. Movement and stillness merged. The air rested calmly around him. It carried no temperature worth noticing. It pressed lightly against skin and stone alike. Everything shared the same quiet presence. Somewhere deep in the jungle, a single sound appeared. A distant rustle, soft, unshaped, then gone. It had no story, no urgency. The temples stood as they always had, their outlines softened by shadow, their surfaces resting without contrast. They did not ask to be seen. They did not insist. Time stretched endlessly. Yet no stretch could be measured. Minutes dissolved into hours, hours into long, gentle stretches of quiet. Yak-chb. Zook paused in the center of an open space. He did not sit, he did not stand. He simply existed, the space around him accepting the stillness. The river beyond the city moved silently. Its water flowed without sound. It reflected the dim light without drawing notice. Flowing and stillness existed together. The sky above remained calm. Clouds drifted slowly, unshaped, and stars hung quietly, uncounted, their light soft and steady. Every stone, every path, every tree felt the same weight. Nothing demanded change. Nothing hinted at movement. Even shadows rested, unpressured. Yak-chb. Zook's hands brushed lightly against stone. The surface did not resist. It did not warm or cool. It simply existed beneath him. The hours continued, unnoticed. The city, the river, the jungle, and the sky all shared a single, slow rhythm. Someone shifted far away. Someone else remained still. Neither mattered. Both were part of the quiet continuation. Breathing found its own pace. Slower. Deeper. Weight settled naturally into the body. Time no longer moved like a river. It felt like a surface, flat, continuous, unbroken. Nothing began. Nothing ended. Everything simply existed. The night held itself without question. It neither deepened nor faded. It simply was. Thoughts appeared without demand. They drifted without meaning, then disappeared. Yak Chb. Zook did not look for anything. He did not search. He did not remember. He did not anticipate. He existed quietly within the endless continuation. And so the hours drifted, smooth and unbroken, as the city, the river, the jungle, and the sky remained exactly as they had always been. Time moved without notice. It did not hurry. It did not linger. It simply continued, flowing as if it had no shape or direction. The city of Tikal remained still, yet it was not lifeless. Stone paths stretched quietly beneath dim light. Open spaces waited, empty and patient. Yak Chb. Zook walked without intention. Each step followed the last naturally. Stopping and moving felt identical. There was no need to choose. The air wrapped gently around him. It carried no scent, no warmth, no chill. It existed only as presence, touching everything equally. Far beyond the city, the jungle whispered softly. Leaves brushed against one another. A distant branch shifted slightly. Nothing demanded attention. The temples stood in soft shadow, their edges blurred by time and distance. They did not call. They did not observe. They simply rested. Time expanded quietly. Minutes and hours blurred together. No one noticed the passing. No one counted. Yak Chb. Zook paused beside a worn stone platform. The stones supported him without complaint. Stillness arrived naturally. It did not require thought. The river beyond the paths moved silently. Water slid smoothly, reflecting the faint sky above. It flowed without purpose. It flowed without hurry. The sky remained calm and open. Clouds drifted slowly, taking shape only to change again. Stars glimmered softly, unnoticed, their light as steady as the passing hours. Every path, every tree, every stone held the same weight. Nothing shifted. Nothing needed to shift. Hands brushed lightly over stone surfaces. The touch was gentle. The stone remained neutral, neither cold nor warm. Time passed as it always had. The city, the river, the jungle, and the sky moved in quiet harmony, without urgency or change. Someone far away shifted slightly. Someone else remained still. Neither mattered. Both were part of the smooth continuation. Breathing slowed naturally. The body felt heavier. Muscles relaxed deeply. Time no longer flowed like a river. It was a surface. Smooth. Continuous. Unbroken. Nothing began. Nothing ended. Everything simply was. The night held itself without question. It neither deepened nor faded. It simply existed. Thoughts appeared and dissolved. They were gentle, unneeded, and unnoticed. Yak Chb. Zook did not seek. He did not recall. He did not plan. He simply existed quietly, in the endless rhythm of time. Hours drifted gently, unbroken. As the city, the river, the jungle, and the sky remained exactly as they always had. Silence continued. Movement continued. Everything continued. Nothing mattered. And yet everything existed. Time moved quietly, stretching like a long breath that had no need to end. It passed without notice, without announcement, without urgency. The city of Tikal remained in its calm stillness. Stone surfaces lay quietly beneath the dim, soft light. Paths curved gently, familiar yet unremarkable. Open spaces waited without purpose. Yet they were complete as they were. Yaxhb. Zook walked slowly. No thought guided him. No destination mattered. Walking and standing were the same. Pause and movement blended naturally. The air rested lightly around him. It carried no warmth, no chill, no scent. It simply existed. It pressed gently against stone, earth, and skin. From deep within the jungle, a single sound drifted. A branch shifted. A leaf trembled. The moment came and went. Nothing lingered. The temples stood in quiet patience. Edges softened by shadow. Surfaces rested without need of recognition. They observed nothing. They asked for nothing. Time passed without definition. Minutes faded into hours. Hours stretched, unnoticed, unmeasured. No event marked their passing. Yaxhb. Zook paused beside a stone platform. It held him lightly, without resistance. Stillness arrived first. Awareness followed. They coexisted seamlessly. The river moved beyond the city. Its water flowed silently, reflecting the dim sky, flowing without expectation, flowing without hurry. The sky remained calm. Clouds drifted slowly, shaping and reshaping themselves. While stars glimmered quietly, their light soft and steady. Each tree, each stone, each path remained constant. Nothing shifted. Nothing required change. Hands brushed lightly over stone. The touch was gentle, neutral. The stone neither warmed nor cooled. It simply existed. Time expanded. The city, the river, the jungle, and the sky moved in quiet harmony. Nothing demanded attention. Nothing requested motion. Someone shifted far away. Someone else remained still. Neither mattered. Both were absorbed into the smooth continuation. Breathing slowed naturally. The body grew heavier. Muscles relaxed completely. Time no longer flowed. It was a surface, flat, smooth, unbroken. Nothing began. Nothing ended. Everything simply existed. The night held itself without question. It did not deepen. It did not fade. It simply was. Thoughts appeared, gentle and fleeting. They dissolved quietly, unremarked, unneeded. Yaxhb. Zook did not seek. He did not recall. He did not plan. He existed quietly within the endless rhythm of time. Hours drifted softly, unbroken, as the city, the river, the jungle, and the sky remained exactly as they always had. Silence continued. Movement continued. Everything continued. Nothing mattered, and yet everything simply existed. Time drifted without sound, without announcement, without movement worth noticing. It simply continued, stretching endlessly like a breath that never ended. The city of Tikal rested quietly. Stone paths curved gently beneath soft, even light. Open spaces were empty yet complete. Nothing required attention. Nothing called for action. Yaxhb. Zook walked slowly, his steps following one another naturally. There was no hurry. There was no pause. Movement and stillness existed together, equal in weight. The air pressed lightly around him. It carried no warmth. It carried no chill. It carried only calm, touching stone, skin, and earth equally. Deep in the jungle, a leaf trembled. A distant branch shifted slightly. The sound was faint and fleeting. It was gone before it could linger. The temples stood quietly, their surfaces softened by shadow, edges blurred by time. They did not demand attention. They observed nothing, and they required nothing. Time expanded slowly. Minutes and hours blended into one another. Nothing distinguished one moment from the next. The city, the river, and the jungle moved together, without urgency, without expectation. Zook paused beside a low stone wall. It held him lightly, supporting without effort. Stillness arrived naturally. Awareness followed gently. Both coexisted without interruption. The river moved silently beyond the city. Water flowed smoothly, reflecting faint skylight, flowing without need, flowing without pause. The sky remained calm above. Clouds drifted slowly, changing form softly and then changing again. Stars glimmered faintly, their light steady and quiet, unnoticed. Paths, trees and stones held the same gentle weight. Nothing shifted. Nothing required change. Hands brushed lightly against stone. It remained neutral, neither cold nor warm. It existed simply, as it always had. Time stretched endlessly. The city, river, jungle, and sky existed together in quiet harmony. Nothing demanded movement. Nothing required notice. Somewhere far away, someone shifted slightly. Someone else remained perfectly still. Neither mattered. Both were absorbed into the unbroken flow. Breathing slowed naturally. The body grew heavier. Muscles relaxed, letting go completely. Time no longer flowed like a river. It existed as a flat surface. Smooth, unbroken. Nothing began. Nothing ended. Everything simply was. The night held itself without effort. It did not deepen. It did not fade. It simply existed. Thoughts drifted gently, appearing and disappearing without leaving a mark. They required no focus, no effort, no memory. Zook did not seek. He did not remember. He did not anticipate. He existed quietly, within the endless rhythm of the world around him. Hours moved softly, unbroken, as the city, the river, the jungle, and the sky remained exactly as they had always been. Silence continued. Movement continued. Everything continued. Nothing mattered. And yet, everything existed, slowly, evenly, endlessly. Time moved softly, without notice, without urgency. It stretched endlessly, like a long exhale that had no need to finish. The city of Tikal lay calm beneath the faint light. Stone paths curved gently, worn smooth over years. Open spaces waited silently, without expectation, without change. Zook walked slowly. His steps followed each other naturally. There was no rush. There was no pause. Walking and stillness merged together. The air rested lightly around him. It carried no warmth. It carried no coolness. It simply existed, touching stone, skin, and earth equally. Far away, a leaf trembled in the jungle. A distant branch shifted slightly. The sound was soft, fleeting, gone before it could linger. The temples stood quietly, their surfaces softened by shadow, edges blurred by the slow passage of time. They did not call attention. They observed nothing. They asked for nothing. Time stretched without definition. Minutes and hours flowed together. No distinction marked one from the other. The city, river, and jungle moved in harmony, without expectation, without effort. Zook paused beside a low stone platform. It held him lightly, supporting him without effort. Stillness arrived naturally. Awareness followed gently, and both coexisted seamlessly. The river beyond the city flowed silently. Water moved smoothly, reflecting faint light from the sky. It flowed without purpose, without pause. The sky remained calm and wide. Clouds drifted slowly, shaping and reshaping themselves gently. Stars glimmered softly, their light steady, quietly steady, without needing notice. Paths, trees and stones carried the same quiet weight. Nothing shifted. Nothing required attention. Hands brushed lightly against stone. The touch was neutral, neither warm nor cold. It existed simply, as it always had. Time passed without hurry. The city, river, jungle, and sky existed together in calm continuity. Nothing demanded motion. Nothing required notice. Somewhere far away, someone shifted slightly. Someone else remained still. Neither mattered. Both were absorbed into the endless flow. Breathing slowed naturally. The body grew heavier. Muscles released completely, settling into soft calm. Time no longer flowed like a river. It was a flat surface, smooth, unbroken. Nothing began. Nothing ended. Everything simply was. The night held itself quietly. It neither deepened nor faded. It simply existed. Thoughts appeared gently. They moved and disappeared softly, leaving no trace. They required no effort, no memory, no focus. Yak-chb, Zook did not seek. He did not remember. He did not anticipate. He simply existed, within the endless rhythm of the world around him. Hours passed softly, unbroken, as the city, river, jungle, and sky remained exactly as they had always been. Silence continued. Movement continued. Everything continued. Nothing mattered. And yet, everything existed, slowly, evenly, endlessly. Time drifted gently, softly, without announcement, without shape. It moved like a long, slow breath that had no need to end. The city of Tikal lay quiet beneath the soft, muted light. Stone paths curved gently, familiar yet unnoticed. Open spaces waited silently, complete in their stillness, without expectation. Yak-chb, Zook moved slowly through the city. Steps followed each other naturally. There was no hurry. There was no pause. Walking and standing were the same. The air rested lightly around him. It carried no warmth. It carried no chill. It simply existed, touching stone, skin, and earth alike. Deep within the jungle, a single sound emerged. A leaf trembled. A distant branch shifted. The moment passed, unnoticed. The temples stood quietly, their surfaces softened by shadow. Edges blurred, shapes indistinct. They observed nothing. They demanded nothing. Time expanded quietly. Minutes flowed into hours. Hours blended into the next. No distinction marked one from the other. The city, the river, and the jungle moved in silent harmony, without urgency, without attention. Yak-chb, Zook paused beside a low stone platform. It held him lightly, supporting him without effort. Stillness arrived first. Awareness followed gently. Both coexisted seamlessly. The river beyond the city moved silently. Water flowed smoothly, reflecting dim sky light. It moved without purpose, without pause. The sky remained calm above. Clouds drifted slowly, shaping and reshaping softly. Stars glimmered faintly, their light steady, soft, unnoticed. Paths, trees, and stones carried the same quiet weight. Nothing shifted. Nothing required attention. Hands brushed lightly against stone. The touch was neutral, neither warm nor cold. It simply existed, as it always had. Time passed without hurry. The city, river, jungle, and sky existed together in calm continuity. Nothing demanded motion. Nothing required notice. Somewhere far away, someone shifted slightly. Someone else remained still. Neither mattered. Both were absorbed into the endless flow. Breathing slowed naturally. The body grew heavier. Muscles relaxed completely. Time no longer flowed like a river. It existed as a flat, smooth, unbroken surface. Nothing began. Nothing ended. Everything simply was. The night held itself quietly. It did not deepen. It did not fade. It simply existed. Thoughts appeared gently, moving softly, then dissolving quietly. No memory remained. No effort was required. Yak Chb. Zook did not seek. He did not remember. He did not anticipate. He simply existed within the endless rhythm of the world around him. Hours drifted softly, unbroken, as the city, river, jungle, and sky remained exactly as they always had. Silence continued. Movement continued. Everything continued. Nothing mattered. And yet, everything existed, slowly, evenly, endlessly. Time moved quietly, softly, without announcement, without shape.